So live, Nancy Mueller. This is
How's it going?
This is version 2.0.
Oh gosh.
Just finished tryouts. In fact, you and I just got to spend the last 20 minutes talking about it, and success. I would say.
Yeah, it was talking with the other directors, and we were just talking about how great we felt like we had kept our standard, and it wasn't as stressful. I don't think this year. I think I think one of the things that we really focus on is being transparent, and we were having conversations with families that might have maybe been new to A5 Chattanooga or just even returners, and hey, this is what we're seeing, this is where we're at. How do you feel about that? And I think there were some good conversations going on, and you can't please everybody all the time, but I felt as a whole it was a very successful tryout. I think we had a lot of good kids come and try out and really see a little bit more about what our product was about, because we had a lot of coaches there who just showed how vested we are and how they are in the product. So
my third or fourth, and the thing that I noticed, again, the amount of coaches, but in the last 2 hours, you saw a lot of, I don't want to say substituting. You guys were moving the players in combinations to get them in front of all of the coaches, because there was like twice as many coaches on both courts, so everybody could make an analysis with this set of hitters, with this guesses,
with this setter, and then we really tried to. Hey, we want to see this combination. We want to see what this work looks like. We want to see what works well together, because as you know, you've watched this for a couple of years now. It's not just about talent. 100% talent. It's a lot about chemistry and how well you work next to each other and with each other in such a small space. So I think that we really did a good job of making sure we were making the right decisions. They were not easy. It's never easy. I'll be honest with you. Tryouts is probably my least favorite time.
Right.
Because for me, I just want everybody to be able to play, and unfortunately sometimes that doesn't happen. So you have some hard choices to make, but I thought our coaches and did a great job of really kind of putting players where they wanted them to be, and they really did a good job of just seeing who worked best together. I was very happy with the results. I'm really excited about this upcoming year.
I am too. To see kind of the new influx. Some people came home. One of my favorite songs is LL Cool J and Mama Said Knock You Out. In the very beginning, he says, "Don't call to come back. I've been here for years." And just like A5, we've been here, going to be here. Yeah. And but this year was definitely an improvement.
It was, and I think we just had a lot of people that wanted to come back and see how much our product had grown. We've had people that came back from when before I was even the director. And so, just the changes that we've made. And it's something I take a lot of pride in. I'm very passionate about. And I think that shows with the way that we select teams and coaches. So I want to put a good product out there always, but not at the expense of children or my, not at the, I feel like we keep our morals about us. We keep our values out front about who we are and how transparent we are with what we're doing.
The standard, we talked about that before we got on, and that's evident.
Yeah.
And my message to you was, I felt like the environment was there, whether you were a repeat player that didn't make it, or if you were a new family that didn't make it, like you felt like you could come back.
Yeah.
Right? Like you weren't.
Absolutely. I actually fielded a couple of phone calls like that because they just wanted to try something else. Like, hey, are we welcome back? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like they're children. Like, let's create opportunities for them, as many as we can. We don't ever make any promises about tryouts. We want to make sure no one is pre-selected. Everybody gets a fair shot. So come on, come all. Like, we want to make sure everybody is looked at, and that's why we have at the tryouts we have 4 coaches that are just there to evaluate. Then you have each team has 2 coaches per team, so they're there, and then myself, and then Sarah, Lael, and Mary Hallahan, we all run it. So you have a lot of eyes to make sure that the right decisions are made, and there's a lot of voices that yet we are able to filter the noise to make the right choices.
So filter the noise. The data points you guys are compressing in real time is incredible with all the players and all things that are going on. I mean, you guys have to be meeting the whole time, especially in the last day. There's no more like, hey, we've got tonight to make this decision.
No.
All of that leads into like the ceremony.
Correct. Well, and one of the things I think that works well is when the athletes come to our training for tryouts, they have a really good idea. We kind of show them kind of some of the drills that they're going to see in tryouts, so it's pretty effortless. And the people that have tried out for us before, not that we don't change up the drills, we're going to do what we think is necessary, what we need to see. My 16s might see. I might need to see something different for the 16 national team than I do for the 13 national team. Like, I want to be able to see this, and I want to see them do this, and whereas it might not be as structured or as intense as at the 13s level. So we're flexible. We work well together. When I took this over 3 years ago, that was the big caveat, is I wanted Sarah and Mary with me because we did work so well together.
Yes. Evident.
And so everybody has their strengths, and I got to tell you, Sarah, Lael, and Mary, they were both fantastic. Mary ran all the drills and all the courts, and she just set it all up, and Sarah did all the back end, and then I just got to kind of mingle and do my thing, because I feel like one of my strengths is the people side, and I like to interact with the families and just make sure I answer any questions that are available. And Sarah kind of lays it all out there, like this is what it's going to look like. She's the X's and O's of all of it, and it works extremely well for us, and it really, I can't speak highly enough about. I mean, they're amazing. They're amazing at what they do, and I just feel like I'm privileged to be a part of all of it.
So we'll get into the fundraiser and the relationship with LOVB here in a second.
Okay.
What did you feel like was different about, or what was the contribution with the relationship with LOVB for tryouts this year specifically?
There's so many resources that we have on the back end, and leading up to tryouts, just them checking in, even A5 out of Atlanta and their club director, hey, what do you need? What are you guys doing? Talk me through this. And then ask me questions about, because their tryouts very different from ours, because they have the magnitude of teams that they're forming. But also with Love, I'm able to reach out to club directors and say, hey, I think I was on 2 or 3 calls just about tryouts, about different ways across the country that people are running their tryouts and what's worked best for them and what systems are working best. And that allows us to choose what's going to work best for us, to have options. And I think the resources and that, knowing I can pick up, there's 75 clubs now across Love. And and to pick up the phone, and they're all willing to talk to you and all willing to say, hey, this is what we've done. We're a smaller club. This is what's worked for us. And so it's honestly such a great crutch for me, because I still am fairly new to this, to club volleyball. I just wanted to make sure it's a great experience for everybody. But Love really is reassuring with that, and their resources are phenomenal.
I would love to hear the feedback from somebody that can talk about the contribution that Nancy Mueller's made since she's been part of A5 and LOVB, because I'm sure you've touched somebody the exact same way.
I hope so. I've done the mentorship thing with them, with another, not necessarily club director, but with a club coach, because I don't think I'm ready to mentor a club director. I do field a lot of calls about it, and I think I have a unique perspective, being with the background that I have as a collegiate coach, as
Sure.
well as now I'm getting my, dipping my toes in the water of the club directing world. I think it's a unique perspective, and I think that it helps us. But Love has a really good staff and really good clubs that may be brand new, and have club directors that are like, hey, we're going to do this call. If you want to jump on it and ask a ton of questions, you can. I am constantly asked to do panels for Love.
Sure.
Usually recruiting panels. I do a lot of those. I actually had a panel, and we ran out of time. I was on a panel, and I didn't get to answer too many questions, but it was on, how to better talk to parents, and how to be a better mediator, and making sure how to be. And so it was easy, because I feel like our families in A5 are they understand how transparent I'm going to be with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes those aren't always fun conversations, but I think parents appreciate and respect that side of it. Like, I'd rather be told what I need to do. I'd rather know, and then instead of guessing what you're thinking. So, I feel like I've grown a lot in that area. But yeah, Love is. I feel blessed to be part of it. It's just such a unique atmosphere, and there's so many details about club directing I don't have to worry about because I have to just go, hey, here's Haystack. I just go look it up, or I know the right people to ask now. I mean, we hired a bunch of new coaches this year, and we're dealing with. They're like, wait, you direct deposit? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and write you a check. Like, this is all part of League One, and this is the hiring process. We're going to onboard you. They're like,
Orientation.
Orientation. Like, they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we'll start meetings in August. And once, every couple weeks in August, our coaches are going to get together. And this is my plan. This is where I want to see where I want us to go. And Mary and I are on the same page as she's the director of player and coach development. And I just want to be a better resource and mentor to our own coaches. And so one of the things that we want to see at A5 Chattanooga is we want our players that start with us at 10s, 11, 12s to know all the lingo that we're going to use at 15, 16, 17s, and 18s. So we want to be streamlined in that way, and we want our coaches to stay. And I mean, we got coaches that have been with us for 8 years since we started this thing, and because they love the product so much. So I get asked quite a bit about how do you get so many female coaches, and I'm like, I don't intentionally do that. I think we have really good a couple of very good, very, very good male coaches, but I look for people who are passionate and male or female. I want them in our program, and I think that's important. And I want role models, both men and women, for our girls. I think I can't stress enough. I mean, life is hard. Like, if you can get somebody out in front of me, like I've always said, if you can be her, if you can see her, you can be her. And I think that's one of the biggest doors that Love's opened for our girls, is to be like, oh my gosh, I could actually play in the United States and be a part of a pro team in the United States. And, so that's pretty cool. And we're going to talk about the fundraiser, but to have one of the pro athletes here for that is going to be unbelievable.
Eye-opening.
So
back to lingo. Every season I have learned something new about the evolution of the game. And so I would ask questions because I have to bug Rusty. Like, I'm constantly hitting him. I'm like, well, who's was that Callie's? Whose ball was that? You know what I mean, what's the rotation? What's the call? Why are they calling a foul? Is that a 5-yard penalty? What's he doing up there? And I have to bother him. But I'll ask it, when do we start doing the short sets, the lower and not, and so and I realized that there's an evolution to the game that selfishly I have to ask, because we're going to be on the 15 teams with Mary. What will the girls expect from 14 to 15? Because now we're making that jump from middle school to high school, and we're in a bigger pool. Right.
And I think the biggest change you're going to see is the speed of the game. The game starts to get a little bit faster. You're going to get your faster sets. You're going to get your girls are starting to really more develop into their bodies, and so you're going to get the speed and agility that you may not see at 14s after that, certainly not at 13s. The physicality of it. I mean, let's be honest, the U19 USA team, the MVP for one of the tournaments they just were in was Kari Knotts out of A5 Atlanta, and she's 14, playing with 19-year-olds.
Oh yeah, she's a beast.
She's an exception to the rule. She's less than 1% of the population, but phenomenal. That's awesome. But you're going to see the speed of the game, the power behind it is really going to change, and I think Mary is unbelievable at training that side of it. And Mary understands that my passion becomes when they get to me at 16s, it's more strategy. I still train them, I still do all that stuff, but now we're thinking bigger, we're thinking faster, we're thinking crossing plays, we're thinking different types of defense. They're going to be challenged defensively to maybe go in and out of 2 defenses in a rally, just based on where the ball's dug and where the setter is. And so they're going to have to start thinking more and not just playing. So they're going to have to be able to think and play, because it's going to be a lot faster. So it takes a lot more discipline with what they're doing in their actions. Less is more. The less movement you have, the more efficient you're going to be. So how do I break some bad habits of maybe moving too early, or, so Mary does a great job with that and preparing them for the even faster game at 16. So I think you're going to see more speed and more power, and overall how the game really works at a higher level. I think you see a pretty basic offense, and even serving. So a lot of times serving, you try and serve to the zone, but it may not be as aggressive. that's all going to change as their bodies continue to change and their bodies continue to grow. And so I think that's the fun part. That's why Mary loves doing the 15s, and I love the 16s because I'm getting them right before they get into. I do enjoy the 17s as well, but I really enjoy both those age groups because the strategy behind it, because I don't like to be outcoached, and it gets more competitive for the coaches. So,
and those are probably like the biggest light bulb moments for the kids, I'm assuming, because they're seeing the strategy for the first time. They're like, oh, that's why we're doing that.
Yes.
You know, and
here's my why. Wait, what?
Here's my why.
Yeah,
I
here's
love that.
the why. Here's the why. Okay, yeah. It's and just the physicality of it. Even at 14s, I saw some 14s teams at nationals. I'm like, how are you 14 years old? You know, it's just crazy how much more developed players are getting at such a younger age. And I think that, you know, a lot of it has to do. We have a lot of athletes in our club that are dual sports, and I think a lot of people are starting to look at those kids that are now doing 2 and 3 sports again because they're more durable, or you know. Just for whatever reason, you know, hand-eye coordination. You know, we don't make our kids ever choose. Like, if you want to play another sport, go play another sport. It actually helps us. You know, I think there's some goods and pros and cons to it, but I also think that it just helps their body grow and develop. Hand-eye coordination, just different things like that. So
I noticed when we played one open tournament this year, and I'm always walking with my head down because I'm carrying my backpack. I've got the gear, I've got the tripods and the cameras. And I got hit about 6 times where I was blindsided and it hurt. I'm like, I'm not going to make it out of here. I mean, I was like, I'm going to put my head on a swivel. But like you said, the physicality at that open level versus the levels.
Even the Premier or the USA right below.
They were smoking those balls.
Yes. I mean, I actually made comment to that to some of our coaches at the different levels that I was able to see at AAUs. Like the younger teams are more physical and playing, like teams that are playing in quote unquote weaker divisions are still super physical, and really good teams are at every division. And I think that's kind of fun. It shows how much our sport is evolving. And it's an ever-changing game. And I have always said, if the game stops changing and I stop learning, then I'll stop coaching. I think that's the fun part of it.
I don't think people will let you.
I get asked all the time if I'm going to retire. I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm not anywhere close.
So let's talk about this for a second. Why volleyball? And why clubs exploding now? Just to your point, like I pulled this up. Registered junior girls USA Volleyball in 2014, 2015, 238,000.
Right.
So 23, 24, 333,000. So you're talking about like it was a 50% jump.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 40% jump in the participation. Then USAV affiliated junior clubs, the clubs went from 1,750 to almost 3,900, 122% jump. And let's see, high school participation, 432,000 to 470,000. You kind of expect a smaller number there because the schools, unless you're adding a program, it's going to just be hard to add people.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to be like some high schools and have room for 6 on the floor and have 25 people on the team.
The side, yeah. What's that happen?
We're not mentioning names.
You're throwing some numbers out there, and now the thing to start to look at too is volleyball's growing so much. You're not even talking about what's happening on the beach, the sand volleyball.
No, you stole my thunder.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So the NCAA D1 tournament average viewers, right? So eyeballs on the sport, 2019, 203,000, all the way up to 401,000, a 98% increase in a 5-year period. And so I asked for, the why, and for the club volleyball specifically, the clear path from club to D1 was 90% of the reason for the growth. Professional visibility, and it specifically mentions LOVB, Pro Volleyball Federation, is that there's pro teams. You can, like you said, if you can see it, you can believe it, you can be it.
Yeah.
And so now with
you can be her.
Yeah, and with the relationship with LOVB, it's like that could be you.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why it can't.
And they're creating if you've never been to a home game when their season comes back, it's the environment is it's an event. It's not just a game. It's an actual event, and it's pretty cool, pretty fun to be a part of.
So they said with COVID, there was a little boost because of the non-contact nature. Of course, Title IX, social media virality. you don't have to, all you have to do is love sports to see a good highlight from volleyball. If you see someone dig out a pancake or something, not that I'm partial to pancakes, but if you just see a great ace, you know what I mean, where someone just thumps the ball, it's like you can appreciate it.
Think about this. Think about how fast at the international level at our USA Volleyball. I'm guessing the women are serving at a speed of over 60 miles an hour. The men are serving over 73. That's crazy. That's what I knew back when I was, about 10, however long ago when I was at Indiana. We wouldn't let our kids jump top unless they're up over 53 miles an hour. But our jump floats were right around 40 to 45.
Watching that ball come at that speed, when I go outside and practice with Calista, I get hammered. And she's just hitting floats. You know what I mean? It's not that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of hand-eye. That's where you're going to see the differences. Even in the serve, is the speed of the serve you're going to get at 14s. So let's see. So for some reason, they talk about, because of the nature of the sport, the built-in social community, but it has to do with the interdependence of the individual players counting on each other. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's involved in the play. If you run football and you run a sweep to the right side, the left wide out is just that he's a decoy. You know what I mean? Like, great, maybe someone was paying attention to you, maybe they weren't, but like in volleyball, like all six have to be involved or like things break down.
And if they're not involved, something happens, right? If they're not engaged in the actual play, then the ball's blocked, it comes right back to where they're supposed to be. So you're talking about a small space with six people in it, and so they have to be able to move together and understand the flow of the game. And that's kind of how you evolve.
So being partial to a DS, I think Calista does a tremendous job of, covering after a block. But when Harriet and I are at work, if someone drops the ball, we're like, yeah, she didn't cover. And
That's fair. Sports terms, I'm telling you, you see them everywhere.
So this is another key phrase that pops up in the STEM friendly, right, in education, that the average, as far as skill sets, the average player has to make 60 plus tactical reads per rally.
Interesting.
And so they're having to think on their feet, and then, so if the DS is making their tactical, and then the hitters are making their tactical, but then there's a symbiotic relationship to their analysis in order to make sure everything, gets executed. Like you said, you might have to move in and out of two defenses in one rally, but we all got to be on the same page.
Right. Yep. It's absolutely all about execution at the highest level. And that's why you have standards. And that's why you have expectations. Because as soon as those standards aren't met, that's when you get beat. So
here's pretty cool. TikTok hashtag volleyball surpassed 83 billion views this year.
It's the number one sport in the United States right now.
NCAA clips regularly hit 3.5 million views, and that's from the college athletes. And it talked about like player generated content. Like, Sophie's, she has 30,000 followers. That's outstanding.
Sophie Fisher.
Yeah. But anyway, so in the evolution of the game, I asked for another analysis. It talks about how it's expanded, the kind of that vertical marketing, if you will, where we're doing beach, we can go play outside, and being good at beach. There's things that are different, but then help when you're on the court,
right?
But they're inherently different as well.
Yeah, it's a different game, and it's actually beach is played on a smaller court with a different ball, and so. And it's even different when you go to grass outdoors. There's a lot of big grass tournaments that they have open nationals and you have 70 and under teams. Like people it's unbelievable. People still play, and it's every year in May they have USAV open nationals, and it's anybody that sometimes college teams used to actually go and play in that as one of their play dates in the spring. I don't know if they're doing it anymore. I haven't been to an open nationals in a while because I don't play anymore. But they do. They have 30 and under. They have 40 and under. And then you have different levels within that age division. It's not just 30 and under open. It's 30 and under open, A, double A, B, double, like all kinds of teams. And it's a huge event every single year. And people are still playing it, so they want to see it, you know?
Well, the game seems to be at the highest level
It really is.
under the proper leadership, because I asked about the evolution over the last several years. Had this conversation with Sarah because she's like, wow, like the year she graduated was the first year of the libero, apparently. And I'm also obviously partial to libero. But I mean, with the introduction of the libero and the substitution rules, just in general, we're getting more kids and it's more inclusive,
Well, and
right?
the other thing that evolved a lot, let's see, I was at South Florida when that happened, was the move from the game. So there was a big push in the late 90s, early 2000s we wanted to get on TV. We wanted our sport to grow. How do we do that? Well, the game was so unpredictable with what we score, regular scoring, side out. Yeah, and then so they went to rally scoring, and my team at South Florida, they had several college teams experiment in the spring, like how many points we should go to. There was a year or two where we went to 30 points, best of 5, 30 points. Holy cow, that was long. But they were just trying to gauge how long a typical match could be, and so they did all these, like what I think is amazing is the people that are so vested in this sport at the collegiate level that I was involved in and still am for a very long time, and they're like, how do we get more people to watch us? How do we get on TV more? How do we do that? Like, how do we grow as a sport? And they continuously amaze me. Like, we have to speed up the game. Now, you know, one of the other rules that's coming into effect in high school that a lot of people don't know is the double contact. And so we're trying to eliminate all the parameters, not all of them, but the ones that for people that have never watched the sport before, what does that mean when they put 2 fingers up? Or what does that mean when they make this weird motion? What does any of that mean? You know, and if you, even the pro game now, like the pro matches, you know, we have to worry about overlapping when we're serving. And you don't have to do that anymore. You can just go right to where you're supposed to be. And then you just have to remember your serving order.
Everybody knows what this means. You know what I mean?
Holding.
In football, holding. Everybody knows what that means.
Yeah.
So if the branding is there for the awareness, then more people can get casually involved.
Right. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, is evolve the game even more to make it more fan friendly and make it more engaging. People are making it more of an event. They're having DJs at games. They're having, you know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what they're doing.
Well, so now it looks like they're attacking the experience, right? So the game's exciting, but you know, when I went to the first NASCAR race, and in the beginning they were like, oh my God, they were like bowling with midgets. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that, Andrew? But then you had these
He's like, no.
motocross racers, and there was like, I mean, by the time we got to the race, I was exhausted, but I was having so much fun because they were getting after the experience, and the race was just part of it. And now with the volleyball games, with the DJs, and they're trying to create an experience from start to finish. You're gonna come in and you can be like, wow, I had a blast.
Yeah. And they're doing such a good job with it. It's still going to continue to grow. Like, I mean, let's think about what happened 2 years ago now. Tiny 2,000 people watching a volleyball match live outdoors in Nebraska. Like, that's crazy to think about. You know, I think they broke a Guinness Book of World Records there, which good for them. Like, that's awesome. You know, and to think that I've been involved with this is my 33rd year of coaching. And I've seen it and actually you add on 4 more because I was a player. So you look at that and you go, gosh. And the players don't even have any clue now what we went through then
to get
to hear. And that's okay. You know, so many people are like, I had no idea of your resume. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you what I did. I'm just who I am. Like, I think you will find more coaches. I don't know that many other coaches that actually talk about, this is my resume. We don't do that. Like, we're here to. Most people coach because they love the game that they're coaching, but they want to evolve it and continue to grow it. And I think USA Volleyball continues to do that. Love is it's still a baby. It's in its infancy, right? And I just think 5 years from now where it's going to be, how many teams we're going to have, you know, how many clubs are there. I mean, their goal is in 5 years, or I think in 3 years, they want to have 150, and they're going to get there. And they're you know, they got good people working for them. I don't even know the bottom line of what they want to do, but they really want to create this grassroots ecosystem where little girls who are 10 years old can go to a game and have a local role model and a local hero in the sport that they love. And I think that's been there a lot for the baseballs and the footballs, and just not that much for women's sports. And I think it's such a huge it's a huge advantage that we're having, and being able to be a part of Love is pretty unique.
Well, let's get to probably the most pressing issue that we have coming up. It's our second annual golf tournament.
Third
Annual.
Third.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Third. That's okay. It's our third year. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So-
Yeah, because it's my third year.
August-
Just finished. Yeah.
August 12th.
12th.
Yeah.
It is. We are still one of the top of all 75 clubs. We're still one of the top fundraisers because we have such amazing people in Chattanooga that are vested in helping young women play this game. Like when a family says to me, "Well, I don't think our daughter can afford it." Like, listen, talk to me. Like, let's have a conversation. How do we make that happen? Like, that's not a reason not to play the game. Like, let's figure that out. And we have so many families willing to give here in Chattanooga. It's unbelievable and this event is it's a lot of fun. I'd love to see more moms playing. You know, get an all women's team to play in the golf fundraiser. I think that would be amazing. I think that's a goal of mine in the next year or two is to get some moms out there and play because it's just a lot of fun. You know, the dads play all the time. They do it a lot with their work, but I'd love to get some moms out there. And but yeah, it's an amazing event at Council Fire. It's a full day of we start at like 11, have a lunch, and this year we're gonna have actually a Love professional. Her name's Sophie Fisher.
Yes,
she is on the Love Atlanta team, and she is a graduate of the University of Georgia, so she's kind of someone a little bit more local. So we're really excited. She's so excited to come, like super excited to come. So, yeah, we're excited to have her.
2-time Gatorade SEC Player of the Year, 2018, 2019
at the University of Kentucky.
Yes,
Yep.
and then SEC Fall Academic Honor Roll 2024. At Georgia, and so she was taking her academics seriously.
Yes, very much.
I mean, she wasn't just there to be an athlete.
Yep. And now she's living her dream.
And let's see, second team All-American and Georgia career record holder for block assists at 450 and block set at 1.43 was her.
That's
her average.
Yeah, that's blocks per set. Yeah.
So it's funny. We were talking about previous lives. By the way, 6'5",
Mm-hmm.
okay, and she is credited with changing the way in whatever ecosphere we're looking at the importance, but the way that a middle can dictate the play of the game.
Yes.
Right. And so maybe It's funny. I noticed that there was a lot of people in tryouts that they were dual trying out because they're like, I'll settle for middle, but I really want to be everybody.
Yeah.
I guess everybody wants to be outside.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be top gun, right?
Pin hitters are a little bit easier to find than middles, but middles are actually if you train as a middle, in my opinion, this is not what anybody else. I don't know what anybody else thinks. In my opinion, in my experience, I think it's easier to take somebody who's trained in the middle and move them to the pin, to either one of the pins, outside or right side, right side, or opposite, outside or opposite, and then it is to take somebody from one of the pins and move them into the middle because the workload that the middles have. That's why a lot of reason why the liberos will come in the back row for the middles is because of the workload that they have on every single play because they have to go sideline to sideline to block. They have to get off the net and transition to be inactive. A lot of responsibility.
I never thought about it.
Yes. Every position has a uniqueness to it. You know, you look at your outside hitters and they're the passers and attackers, right? You got your libero that's in charge of all the defense and the passing, and then your setters who are the quarterbacks that are managing the game. But they don't. I think the middle is one of the most underappreciated positions, but it's one of the hardest positions. That's my favorite position to train. I love training middles. I didn't play middle, but I got to really enjoy coaching middle, and I got to really embrace it at Indiana when I was there, and got to work with a first-team All-American. It was just kind of really super cool to try different things out. But the work that they have to do side to side, off the net, on the net, just really have a really good lateral speed, but also vertical speed. You know what I mean? Like it's a very difficult position to play.
So we've talked about a lot of levels here, all the way from club. Even mentioned the pro team, but one of the things that Sophie did is she was on the women's national team. Like, who's made up of the women's national team?
Who's what?
Who's made up the women's national team? What
Oh, gosh.
organization is that? Who
That's
are they
the
playing?
USA Volleyball.
Okay.
That's USA Volleyball. They do a huge tryout, but they also, it is very difficult to make the USA. That's the Olympic. She hasn't made the Olympic team yet. So
Okay.
the national, that's what she's trained at the national team level, as I don't think she's made the actual roster though.
Okay.
So there's a difference. So they only get to take 12 players to like an Olympic Games, but they actually have a couple alternates. So I think they have 14 on the roster. So there's a rostered national team.
Okay.
And then there's probably a good chunk of about, I would say, another 12 to 15 that are on that are national team players. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. There's a rostered, and then there's the other. And the rostered play, but the USA Volleyball is interesting that they have, excuse me, they have different groups go to different championships. Well, because some of them might be playing in a professional league overseas and are unavailable. So some of our rostered athletes may not be available to play in the NORCECA games or the Pan Am games or something like that. So they have all these building blocks, all these athletes that are within their system, the USA Volleyball system, the pipeline, that are waiting for their chance to play on the Olympic team. And they're going to these, so they're getting international experience. While they may not be rostered on the Olympic roster, they're on the national team roster.
How early can you get on that team? Never mind. Let's not talk about like if you. Is there a limit? Like you have to wait till you get to a certain point.
No.
Oh.
I mean, they're not. I don't think they've ever taken a high school athlete. But, they've taken some collegiate athletes.
Okay. And you can play how late on the national team?
Till you retire. I mean, look at Jordan Larson. She just retired after the last Olympics, and she was close to 40. So. I think, sorry, Jordan, if I don't know what that is, because, yeah, she's one of our love athletes, Jordan Larson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just don't happen to know her age, but they call her the governor. She's been to 4 Olympic Games. Yeah. And so
great.
I think she started, I want to say, right out of college.
That's
usually what happens late during their collegiate years. They start to, at the juniors level, they have national development team pipeline. So they just start putting kids into this pipeline with camps and clinics and just really trying to get and evolve in that atmosphere. And so you can see and play some international level. It's really kind of cool. But you have to be able to continue to make it every year until you get to a certain age, I guess. I don't really know how far Sophie's gone. I haven't had that conversation with her yet. I'm excited to.
So Sophie is playing for the Atlanta pro team.
Uh-huh.
How many pro teams are there nationwide?
There are 6. Okay. There are 6 Love Pro teams, and I believe there's a big meeting in September, but I'm in season, so I can't go. So I imagine they're going to make a few more announcements. That's my guess. Additions to, I'm guessing, 2 additional cities. Just at the rate that the ecosystem of the clubs is growing, I think they're targeting certain areas to really grow and add those to, so that they don't just want to put down in a city that's not volleyball friendly. Not that they aren't but volleyball knowledgeable. They want to have a fan base already kind of built in with the clubs. And they did that with Atlanta, with A5 being down there, and so many clubs in the Atlanta, good clubs in Atlanta. So, you got one in Atlanta, you got one in Madison, you got one in Houston, you got one in Austin.
Madison, Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah. So really hot. And if you look, Texas, Wisconsin, and I forgot Love.
Big 12.
Omaha. Love, Nebraska. It's not Love, Nebraska. Oh, my gosh, I'm losing my mind. But there's one in Nebraska. It is a Love at Omaha. Love Omaha. And so there's, University of Nebraska, high attendance. Wisconsin, high attendance. Austin is University of Texas, high attendance. Atlanta, huge population with junior club and with good Georgia Tech, and you got Georgia right down the street. And then Houston's a huge, huge club pipeline. So I wouldn't be surprised if there may be, and this is me, pure speculation, Love, I'm guessing there's, I just know where they're finding clubs to add. So I have a feeling we're going to get a couple more pop up, I would say within the next 2 years.
So I'm going to wish something into existence.
Wish it.
Because we're going to send this off into to LOVB, and and I think this is a low barrier add-on. But if we could go to like a portal at the LOVB website where we register basically a field trip. And we tell them how many kids are coming down.
Oh, yeah, they'll
and
do that in a second.
And we can pay for the tickets.
Oh, yeah,
just
they
maybe
already do that.
Have them at will call.
Yeah,
So they do that so they can be they're ready for us.
They work with us, and a couple of our teams within the club have done it when there's when we're down there for a couple of tournaments. So they constantly reach out to me. I'm a VIP, as I get to go down there all the time and watch them and sit on court. So that's really fun. But anytime any of our teams or our club or anybody wants to go, we just reach out to. That's just a really easy phone call for me to make, and they're like, "Okay, let's make it happen."
All right.
So they're readily available to help out if they have the seats available. I think Mary's team last year was in Louisville when they were having the Love Classic, the Love Championships, and they got to go to that, and they arranged all that through Love. They're very opening. Their ticketing is fantastic.
Which venue are they playing at in Atlanta?
Oh, I think it's Gateway, the one right by the airport.
So they're selling out then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they're pretty close to selling out, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's good. It's a great venue. I'm not even going to speculate. I don't know the size of the arena. It's not a 20,000 seat or 10,000. I think it's about 5,000 seat arena.
Okay.
That they have right there. I think that's where the Atlanta Women's WNBA was playing, where they first started playing. I think it's called Gateway.
So the last thing here about Sophie is the community outreach, and she hosts an off-season youth clinic, the Sophie Fisher Clinic. And so she's already giving back at a young age in the same way that you and Mary and Sarah are. And
you'll notice, I don't mean to interrupt you, Jamie, but you'll notice that a lot of the athletes will do that because they're so passionate about it. They play the sport that they love. And so they're a lot of our love athletes. So I would say when we're talking about the love teams, if you took the Olympics from the last quad, the female athletes that were in there, I think 9 of the 12 that are rostered players are all playing for our club, for our love, which makes it a pretty powerful league.
So good.
Yeah. And then a lot of the top collegiate athletes, Maddie Skinner, Sarah Franklin, who was the player of the year. Maddie Skinner was player of the year before. Like you're talking, and Lexi Rodriguez, libero from Nebraska. Like you've got the top collegiate athletes.
I follow Lexi.
Yeah, she's great, isn't she? Yeah. But yeah, you have the top collegiate athletes also playing in our league. So, but they find time to give back to the community of volleyball. Like if I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to do a clinic, and we wanted to bring in because Love also has NIL athletes, which are the collegiate athletes. Hey, we want to bring them in. Can we do that? Yeah, here's who we talk to, blah, blah, blah. Let's make it happen. And those are some of the things that we're going to start doing in January and February for us and bringing in pros and stuff. Because they want to give back. They love it.
Speaking of giving back, you touch other directors and you touch the coaches and you touch the players. Tell me for a second what volleyball has done for Nancy, because that's the root of the passion that is driving our club.
Gosh, I honestly didn't know what club volleyball was about other than from the recruiting aspect of it. But when I started coaching club, I didn't realize how much I could impact a kid's life. And I think for me, it started. I grew up. I'm one of 6 girls, right? So, 3 of us played Division I. We're from a town of less than 600 people. Pretty athletic family. So, it started kind of there. I started doing camps when I was a sophomore in college, and it just kind of built. And I was like in April of my senior year, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get a job next month. And I was like, well, it felt like a very natural progression for me because I really just loved coaching, but club really evolved when I came to Chattanooga, and I just really have enjoyed, I guess the part of it that I love, don't get me wrong, I love the game of volleyball. I think it's one of the most fascinating sports to watch because it's never the same. Every ball is different, so the strategy behind it is just really kind of fun for me. But when I started coaching club, I never realized, I thought, man, we were really arrogant at my to think that we were impacting so many kids and just just the little 12-year-olds to come up and go, Coach Nancy, will you come watch us play? Will you be at this? It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And for me, as I've grown as a coach, I've figured out that it's not always just, I love to win. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this the wrong way. But there's so much more about the relationships and the connections. And that's how you earn respect, not just for yourself, but from others. And it's really helped me evolve as a person. The game has. And I think the word I try to use the most is authentic. I want to be myself. Club has allowed me to do that. College as sports has allowed me to do that. And I think I learned that growing up. You got to fight for attention a little bit when you're one of 8 kids. But I had I had a really good set of values placed on me as a child. And I've been able to evolve that and share that. And I never, ever would have thought that this is where I would be, and I love it. I've had people ask me, how much longer are you going to stay in Chattanooga? And I'm like, I don't plan on going anywhere. This is a great community, but it's evolved for me. It's evolved from wanting the most important thing being winning to the connections, and I think that's where why I love recruiting so much is because of the connections you get to make with the people, and when those people respect you and connect with you, they're going to work harder for you. And they're going to work harder to win because they don't want to disappoint you. And I don't ever want anybody to play because they're disappointing me. I want them to play because they love it. And I think that's where it starts from for me is the connection. So,
what impact do you think Mary's leaving? Let's talk about your team real quick because you've got great soldiers. Mm-hmm. But what's her value add specifically?
I think one of the Mary is very strong in her convictions, which I absolutely love and respect about her. She's unwavering in her knowledge of the game. She really has a really good feel for how it's played, how it should be played, what she sees, how we can make that connection and that correction when she's training a kid. And she does that. That is and she's got a really good mind for, we will try something. If it doesn't work, she's like, well, what if we do it this way? What if we do it? She's constantly, I'm sure there's a name for it, but she's constantly evolving as a coach, and she would, I know you want to get her on the podcast. She's absolutely not going to love it because she loves behind the scenes.
I know.
She just wants to grow the kids and help our coaches however they can. And what do you need from me? And she's very strong in that. She's a really good trainer. I think the quality of which our liberos have grown under Mary, because that's kind of her. She loves that niche. I love the middles. Mary loves the bros. I love all the hitters and the setters. Probably my least, don't take this wrong way, is the bros, because I don't want to hit anymore. That's the only reason why. The shoulders had a ton of balls hit. So, but I love all the positions. But Mary is passionate about the bros because that's where she was. But our defense and our defensive systems have kind of evolved from Mary, and I had never thought about it at the levels that I was at. I never thought about using something interchanging like we've done systematically with defense, and that all came from Mary. So she's got a really good mind for the game, sees things. What I think the reason why we work so well together, because she sees things differently than I do. And you have to have somebody that's not always a yes person.
Oh, yeah.
And Mary's not a yes person. She is she's very real in her convictions, and I respect that about her a lot. And I love that about her, and it just makes me think outside the box. But as far as her strengths, like I put her in charge of player and coach development for a reason. I think she's really good at that, but that's only just the tip of the iceberg. She's also a recruiting coordinator. She's really good with relationships with college coaches, so I think that's where it all, I think that's her superpower is she's very versatile. That's her superpower. She's got her hands in so many parts of this club that people don't realize that she does. And that's how she wants it. She doesn't want, Sarah's the same way. None of them want that. I'm like, you think I do? Like, I think that's the thing that's special about this group is we just want to grow the athletes.
Servant leadership.
Yeah.
Let's pick on Sarah for a second. Let me throw my word out.
Okay.
Because now that I've had a chance to do the Baylor tryouts and training,
yeah,
and obviously we did a lot of privates, but intentionality, and there a lot can get thrown underneath that umbrella. But that's one thing that I've seen. That's her superpower. Yes.
There she is. I told you before, I think, that I wasn't taking this position without either one of these people, but Sarah's the backbone of Chattanooga club volleyball. She's been doing this for 25 years. And she is great to put in front of parents because she's authentic, transparent. The things that you guys see on the website, the building of the programs, all of that stuff, I just tell her the dates that I'm available and what I'm willing to do. And she's like, okay, we'll do this. She's got a degree in accounting, I think. And so
she's her MBA.
Yes. So she's very, very bright. And so I just can't. And that's only a small part of it. Like the volleyball side of it, like the training side of it. If I'm, we sit around and we talk like, anything that we want to change, anything that we want to do, we talk pace and purpose, like how do we make that happen in the gym? And so the conversations the three of us have are pretty, if you don't know anything about volleyball, you'd be like, what are you talking about?
Pace and purpose. I love that. That can be used in both my businesses.
But I can't say enough about how Sarah was trained at the highest level when she was in club. So it's always great to pick her mind. She played for one of the top clubs in the country out of Chicago. And then she came to UTC and was an impactful player there. And then what she's done at Baylor, the legacy that she's leaving there is unbelievable. So 2
state titles. Yeah. And 8 out of the last 6 years. Yeah. 6 out of the last 6 years.
And you just want to hitch your wagon to that horse because, and that's just a small part of it, but even a better person. I think that's the one thing that the three of us do well is we respect each other in the volleyball arena as well as personally. And I think it's hard to find that kind of chemistry. And I told you before, chemistry wins a lot. And I think that's what we have. I think we have great chemistry. We have great dialogue. We have great communication. And I think it's reflected in how we run our club. It is not my club. It is our club. And everybody that's a part of A5, it's our club. And I always have I don't want to be out front, but I don't mind doing it because I really believe in what we're doing. And I can't do what I do without Sarah and Mary. And they both know that. So, and I hope that they know. And I literally, after club tryouts were done, I sent them both a message. I'm like, home run, you guys. Like, you guys have hit it out of the ballpark. Thank you for all that you do, the time, and, stuff that I don't even think about, like the roses and the cards and all that. I'm like, that's all Sarah. Sarah's like, we got to remember to do this. I'm like, I don't touch tryouts. That's Sarah and Mary, and I am there to do the part that I need to play in that part of it. And so, but they are unbelievable at it. And the way that we do things, I think, is all credit to them.
I want to close with one conversation that you and I talked about before we came into the podcast. I think maybe the most important thing we talk about today.
Okay.
What is the standard? How are we applying it? And how is it a part of the success? Because I love this story.
Gosh, I don't even remember. Oh gosh, you're going to put me on the spot. I think one of the things that we talked about, like anytime you run a drill or you do something, like there's an expectation standard. Actually, we talked about family. That's what it was.
It was?
It was. Okay, let me reflect back to that.
And the transparency.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I was talking to a recruit about is, we run a program, and one of the big campaigns lately, or a couple years ago, was where they put family on the front of the shirt. And while I thought that was great and special, I said, we don't have to, I don't feel like at A5, we have to put that on the front of our shirt because that's the standard and expectation that we have within our club. We want to support each other. We want to, as coaches, as people, and as players. So that's the standard. That's not the exception. Like that is the standard of what we expect when people join our club. Is we're going to be supportive of each other, and that's all the way across the board. We're very intentional with what we do in our practices. We're very intentional with how we run a practice, how we want to master coaching, how we want to run a combined practice, and all that. Bottom line is that we're going to treat people how we want to be treated, and that's the standard. there's not good. Our goal is there's difference between standards and goals. Our goal is to win, right? We want to win. We want to make sure everybody has a great experience. The standard is we're going to support each other and we're going to be a family. But I don't need to say that. I think that's the thing that people need to understand is I don't need to talk about family because that's what we are. Family doesn't say, oh, this is they don't say family all the time. Like that's the expectation, right? And so I think that that's something that is a part of our language, in terms of how we're intentional with what we do. But I also think it's just, that's who we are as people.
Culture.
It's culture. Yeah. So that's the standard, It's something as simple as standing with your toes on your line, lining your bags up. That's the standard. And there's no exception to that.
And maybe that's what Chattanooga A5's contribution to LOVB is upholding or demonstrating the standard.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance to listen to Caitlin Gow, she is the CEO of Love. She is one of the most phenomenal people I've heard and passionate people I've heard for someone who's never played the game of volleyball. And it's amazing to hear what their standard is. And it all evolves and it all works because of family. Not biological family, but family. And that's who you surround yourself with. And that's what we try to achieve here at A5 Chattanooga is who we want to surround ourselves with good people who believe in what we're doing. And that's family.
Mission accomplished.
Thank you.
Let's do it again next year.
All right. Thank you.